On today's show, we feature the magic of the amazing Anthony Darkstone. Welcome to Magic Mike's Castle webcast and podcast. By way of introduction, here's brief background on Anthony Darkstone. He's a well-traveled and highly experienced performer, producer, and director. His work has taken him to several places and countries, everywhere from Singapore to Las Vegas, where he was part of the cast at various shows, including Jeff McBride's Wonderground. He is a talk show host who has produced and hosted talk shows at the IBM, the SAM, Magic at the Red Sea in Israel, and the Texas Association of Magicians. His guests have included Max Maven, Walter Zany Blaney, Pavel, Quentin Reynolds, Jason Andrews, Phil Wilmarth, Trixie Bond, Marco M., Scott Wells, Michael Finney, Sean Farquhar, Joe M. Turner, and many other notables. He was featured on the cover of MUM in 2000 when he was appointed an international deputy for the Society of American Magicians and is the president of the International Assembly of the SAM, of which I'm honored to be a charter member. His written work has appeared in several magic publications in various countries. Some years ago, he co-hosted World Class Magic with Dan Garrett in MUM and currently hosts Magic Around the World, also in MUM. He is an AIMC with Silver Star at the Magic Circle, where he has lectured and given talks. A good friend of his, the legendary Steve Dacre, described him as, quote, magic's hidden treasure, unquote. Magic Mike Likey with our very special show featuring Anthony Darkstone. And I'd like to thank you so much for joining me on this day. Anthony, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Michael, and it's a great pleasure to share a mic and a camera with you.
It's an honor for a change. You're being interviewed. You're the big interviewer. You do and have done so many amazing shows. Your most current one is the dossiers, the Anthony Darkstone dossiers.
Yes, it is.
And you get just amazing people on that show. I love that show, and I'm so glad that you're doing that. Now, I'm going to share this.
Tell you about some of the people coming on?
Oh, certainly, but I want to praise you a little bit because you're one of the humblest people I know, and I know you're going to feel uncomfortable, so I'm not going to get too specific, but I just want to drop some names here and there's dozens of quotes and testimonials for Anthony. I'll just name some of the names: Bernie Cohen, Ali Bongo, Pat Page, Ian Adair, Pavel, Dan Garrett, Tobias Beckworth, Eugene Berger, we'll speak about him hopefully in a few minutes, Jerry Andrus, Jason Andrews, David Goodsell, Steve Dacre. I loved his, it was card effect. That he did many card effects, but I actually practiced that one. Norbert Ferret, Bob Lowe, Marco M., and of course Walter Zany Blaney, to name just a few. And they go on and on. I won't embarrass you by going on and on the way they have and to quote them too much, but your years of experience speak for themselves. Anybody who's anybody, the who's who of the magic world, all over the world, just not in Europe, not only in Europe rather, not only in North America or South America, but all over the world, and I'm sure we're missing a few. I'm not even mentioning a fraction of your life experiences in the world of magic. And you have so much to share with us. We have so limited time, but I really wanted to tackle something that's near and dear to me, and I hope it's near and dear to you, and that's showmanship. And that's theater and theatrics, so important in magic. Nowadays in magic, I'm just glad magic has a lot of exposure. But and I don't mean revealing tricks, I mean that it's out there on social media. But a lot of it is just like one-off, boom, boom. They're doing things and that's it. And it's visual, it's great stuff. But to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Anthony, is there has to be a beginning, middle, and ends. There has to be some kind of structure and hopefully an emotional hook, which I only learned in the 90s that, wow, you get an emotional hook in there and they're hooked emotionally. They can relate on some level. I'm going to let you go on now because I've been talking way too much. But
Well, not at all, not at all. Go ahead.
but I'd love you to share with all of us either your experiences and or your take on showmanship and theatrics in magic.
Well, if you recall, you very kindly arranged, I believe, it just a few months ago, if my memory serves, and we do have that out actually on the SAM Showcase and on Abra.tv. If someone Googles that, you can go. What I'm referring to is you kindly arranged for me to encapsulate a 2-day workshop in the fall. I believe the IBM people in Canada and a few other folks joined us from around the world. You're very kind in making those quotes, and I am blessed, humbled, and privileged to have known many of the names you've quoted. Uh, some of them sadly are not with us, but others still are. And they have become good friends. I either hung out with them and or worked with them over the years in different places in Europe, the US, Canada, and elsewhere, Singapore, whatever it is, you name it. So basically my take, I think it is apt to quote a wonderful gentleman who was a dear, dear friend, and that's the master himself, Eugene Burke. To paraphrase an article I wrote on him for the Secret Art Journal for Jeffrey Wright, magic is not trivial. It's not about tricks and being a trickster. It's about relating to your audience in some meaningful way. And I guess that covers the emotional hook, be that laughter or a little bit of pathos or just sheer wonder. I have two phrases which people may or may not agree with, but they're mine, and as you asked, I'm happy to share them. The real magic begins when the curtains close and they start talking about your act on the way. Then he's touched in some meaningful way, large or small. The other one is if at the end of any show, it doesn't matter if you're doing something in restaurant, television, or a large stage, or parlor, if people either voice it or think it, how did you do that? There is something wrong in the direction of that show. When I say wrong, I don't mean that as technically incompetent. I mean it is not in the encompassing word entertainment. Very briefly, I'll just add, nobody looks at a Tom and Jerry cartoon and says, they're filming that at 16 frames a second, and then they're adding that and taking that out, and someone is drawing different caricatures. People just watch it, suspend their disbelief, and laugh. Because a mouse doesn't beat up a cat with a broom, any more than a cat goes down the drain pipe and comes out the other end, a complete cat. So I hope in some measure I encapsulated what you were trying to ask.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important. The whole essence of magic, you said it in your quotes just a few seconds ago. What true magic is. Magic is not just the superficial mechanical carrying out of moves and perhaps the patter that comes with it. For the lay people, their patter is what were the suggestions for the script for what you're going to say, and not the actions. Those are separate, and hopefully you bring them together. But I've never, I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just hopefully giving an example. I've never used the pattern, one magic trick, in the hundreds of thousands that I've owned throughout the years, starting from around age 14 or a little bit under age 14. It's like, okay, that's a basic structure, but that's not who I am. And I hope you'd agree with me when I say you have to make the magic effect yours, your own. And if it doesn't suit you, no matter how powerful it is or no matter how popular it is, why do it? Just because you saw so and so do it on television, or just because you saw so and so do it in the local cabaret or bar, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It has to almost be, it is actually, in fact, an extension of yourself. Is it not?
In some ways, because I think you and I have spoken in the workshop I referred to that, um, it is a performing art, and therefore we need to create a performance. So everything is theater, and that includes doing a simple effect to walk around in a restaurant. That is theater, that's space. So that needs to be framed. Thought needs to be given of whether you're going to be invading inadvertently the diner's space, because they're there to dine. It's a whole different ballgame if you're in a theater of 100 or 2,000 people, or indeed in a television studio, which you and I are very familiar with. I know you've done a massive television shows. Very often, the audience in television, well, almost always, as you know, by being a consultant on TV for many, many years in different countries and shows, not necessarily just magic, but the audience in a television studio is really yet another plot. You have to be very conscious playing the camera, and you raised a very important point. Just because something works on stage, which already are, it does not necessarily follow that it's ideal for television. I've seen more magic exposed on television inadvertently by people who have not thought about the medium that they're performing with and to, because it's not just a single camera, but several. And there's a man upstairs in a glass booth who's deciding what he's going to do, and it's not always the red light that you're playing to. So you need to get beyond that fourth wall that television automatically creates anyway. In theater, it's slightly easier. So yes, script matters. Uh, the choice of effects matters, and the character that you're using matters. A wonderful example, in fact, is, again, people can see this in the showcase on Abra.tv, is my last guest of the Darkstone Dusty is Roman. When you watch her at performance mode, and then you see that as she was chatting to me, they are two different people. Uh, it's a bit like Marilyn Monroe. No one recognized her in the street. No one recognized her in the street. Same thing with, Meryl Streep, some of the greats. So we are, in a sense, actors, and we're playing a part. My contention is that if we're not playing the part of a magician and have the mindset of a magician, how on earth can you expect people to suspend their disbelief?
Absolutely.
You walk
Absolutely.
into, thank you, the person walking into a room, however big, fat, and jolly he is, and saying, ho, 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 doesn't work as well unless he or she is wearing a big red costume with a big black belt and a hat and a big beard and looks like that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how good you are as an actor, if your visual and other things don't enhance it. By that I don't mean everybody's got to be coming in a tux or, an Armani jacket or whatever. But it's understanding how we need to get that character across.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a real off the cuff question. Usually I have my things prepared here and I have a general frame of references, etc. But this just came to me, and I think it's crucial. You have to be, how do I put this? I'm going to word it a little bit the way I worded it in one of my books. I have a lot of books on Amazon about magic, most recently, Creating Your Character. Thank you. But every single character, I'll call them characters, that I've put on stage or walk around magic in restaurants or wherever I've appeared, is actually an extension of myself. And for example, for many years on my TV show, I had medieval garb. It was kind of based on Robin Hood's series, Robin of Sherwood in England. In Canada, it was called Robin Hood, with Michael Praed as the star. And I could relate. There was something deep within me that resonated to that. And so I sort of portrayed that because I believed that that's part of who I am. It's one of my many facets. I believe everyone has a multitude of facets, and if they would only allow it out, that would be the best situation. In any case, most recently it's sort of a steampunk, which is very popular, but I love 1800s regardless. And I love that look and feel. I always have that whole period of creativity where some of the world's greatest novels were born. And so that's also an extension of myself. I won't get all metaphysical on folks who may or may not be able to relate to saying, oh, it was one of my past lives or whatever. It's just something that resonates for me. And every time I've seen you, Anthony, or seen your videos or promos, etc., there's various characters. They're fascinating. Many of them resonate for me as well personally. But I have a funny feeling they are also extensions of yourself, or am I just reading more in than actually is?
Um, well, yes and no, I think, is the answer to that, because any good actor has to reach within himself or herself, because how else can you do it? I will answer you that. Once when Kirk Douglas was asked, similar thing, he said, look, it's not my job to convince myself I am Spartacus. It is my job to convince the audience that I am Spartacus. Now, if we're talking acting, which I think is absolutely vital for any magician, we can discuss that aspect for days and days and days. However, just having said that, to look at the character, it, you need to be able to reach into that part of yourself, be it something from Lee Strasberg in New York, looking at my influences, and the way I can describe them. My great influences, in fact, were people like Marco M, whose name you used, Orson Welles, and indeed uh, Marlon Brando in Julius Caesar. Uh, Particularly his part where he does the internment scene of Friends, Romans, and Country. Now, there's a lot of stuff to be learned from that. The cadence, the kinesics, the body language, and script, which you referred to earlier, in my humble opinion, is not always talking. It can actually be silent. And in my workshops, I mentioned this. The greatest scriptwriter in the world, he's gone now, bless him for his memory, and that was Marcel Marceau, which those who know his work know he was the world's greatest mind, and he never said a word. But that too is part of script. To the punk rock and things like that you were talking about earlier on. Another classic example, and it can be easily seen on YouTube, is with Dear Pop Hayden, uh, who accused these characters. I have created and played many characters as a magician, as an actor. The three that I've worked with in the last several years is Anthony Darkstone, and another one I call Silverado that has a mask painted on and it's kind of very New Mexico type character who is the sort of sorcerer but a friendly one. And he doesn't speak. He doesn't say a word. And the other one is a slightly more mysterious sorcerer. It's a little bit of a story how that came about. with something we did up in Scotland with Ron Gowan and Pat Page, my mentor and dear friend, who was produced by Mark Diskin and J. Scott Berry. And that is Zadok, which is pronounced in Hebrew as Zadok. And I added to it, keeper of the seal of the ancient Magi. So when the picture is seen, and the byline, and the name, it immediately becomes, whoa. They know they're not going to get funny comedy magic. They're not going to get funny. So what it's doing is marketing the character well in advance when people see it. They go, oh yeah, I like this. You know, you do. Yes, of course he has fire. And sometimes he speaks in a very strange biblical accent. Greetings, I am Zadok, keeper of seal of ancient Magi. Sorry, my bad English. So immediately that I haven't done anything yet. That's when I entered. And then of course there's the entrance music. On the main character of Anthony Darkstone, I have my own music written and done for me. The piece of music I use is mine, so I have permission to use it. It plays, and I don't come on for 10 seconds. Curtains open, and I actually stand there and I count. I mean, I know the music in my sleep, so to speak, but I still count. 10, and I know when it hits that note, that's when I walk on to that note, bow, and then they're not absolutely sure, other than, oh wow, yeah, because he's a different guy. He's very classy. He's wearing a white shirt with a white suit tie and a Armani cuffs. It's not over the top, but it's there. And what's that doing? That's saying to people, I'm next.
Absolutely.
Please accept.
Absolutely. It sends people, it gives them information and it sends them to another realm, hopefully a realm that you've created for them where they can suspend disbelief, if you will. We'll be back with Anthony Darkstone. We'll chat a little bit about his Darkstone dossiers and what's going on right after this.
Producer and host of his specials on social media based on his magical books of the same name, Dr. Michael, Magic Mike Likey, is also a clinical hypnotherapist and doctor of theocentric psychology. Having performed more than 250 shows a year in the mid-80s and 90s, he also produced and starred in the world's longest regularly produced TV shows in Winnipeg, Canada for 9 years, and guested regularly on broadcast television and starred in A Medieval Feast for 10 years. Star of stage and television, Magic Mike Likey performs illusions large and small and will teach you the secrets of the magical arts, both in person and virtually. This is Magic Mike Likey.
And we're back with the great Anthony Darkstone. And I'm excited to talk about the Darkstone dossiers because you've had so many fascinating people in the magic realm, in the realm of not just magic but acting and other venues and situations as well, but mostly magic. Would you care to share with us who has been, who is coming up, and how perhaps the dossiers were born?
Oh, sure. I'll be happy to do that. As you know, Michael, and obviously, people watching this may not know, but I've spent a great number of years consulting for TV and also doing live talk shows. I mean, they're literally sitting there with people. I've done them for the IBM, the SAM, TAOM, etc. I'm not bragging here. I'm just saying that's the past. The TAOM one was particularly wonderful because dear Walter Lady said, if you're going to do this, I want you to fly over Anthony and he'll produce it and host it, which I did. And great. We had a lot of wonderful cameo guests come on. Couple of the one in, I'm trying to recall, the IBM one in England for their convention was Jason Andrews, Michael Finney, Sean Farquhar, and Joe M. Kerr. And I'm delighted to say all of these gentlemen are good friends, and they are part of the SAM International Assembly, of which you, of course, are an equally valued member.
Thank you.
So it's a little bit of a joke, actually, that Joe Turner tells. If you want to become president of the IBM, get on Anthony's show. None of them were presidents at the time, you know what I mean? It's just, one of those things. They all went on to become presidents of the IBM. So the Darkstone dossier seemed to be a logical way to move. I'd spoken with most illustrious, how we address the SAM president, Joe Walensky, Dr. Joe Walensky, and I said, look, he said, I love it, I think we should do it. Great, this is fun. Just leave me alone, I'll get on with it. I know what to do, and he did. Of course, he provides the Zoom link and does all the technical bits, which I am useless at, really, seriously, useless. But I have great people like him and Brett Saul who handle all the Zoom bits and let people in and monitor chats and things. So that's how it came about. Past guests. My first one was another dear friend, Bill Merlin Palmer from Texas. And Bill incidentally will be on the next Gala show in December. You were on the first one, if you recall, in June. Yes,
Yes,
you
yes.
yeah. I've had Mark Paul, who to me is probably, not probably, definitely to me, the greatest mentalist in the world. Uh, Catherine Rhodes, who is the Secretary of the United Circle, also a member of our International Assembly. Steve Short, uh, talking about his book on David Nixon, who is really, really not very well known in the U.S. and elsewhere, but extraordinarily well known in England. He's one of the first people to have a TV show with Magic, and he's writing another book on Eli Bongo. Who else have I had? Oh gosh, I'm trying very hard to think here. Kevin James, of
Ah,
course.
of course.
Sean Farquhar, great names. People coming up. I'm doing a kind of coupled series for the next one up till December. And the next couple are going to be Kylie and David Knight from Night Illusions. Then I'm going to have Alexander the Great and Bill Purnell, her husband. And in December, the last for this year, the Darkstone dossiers will have a very, 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 very dear friend of mine and her husband. Her name is Abigail. Her husband's name is Jeff. And together they're known as Abigail and Jeff McBride.
I
You may have
love
heard
them.
of
Also legends, and I love his style and her. They're both just amazing. I'm so glad they're coming on.
I've done interviews with Abby before, recorded ones and chats, etc. But I want to bring them in and how they work together. And Abby, in her own right, and many other things, also a remarkable musician. I worked with him, fortunately. I was on the bill in 2018 and the Wonderground.
Absolutely.
So it was
Fantastic.
great.
Lots to look forward to with the Darkstone dossiers. We're going to take one more quick break and we'll be back to find out how does one contact Anthony Darkstone. We'll be back right after this.
Enjoy Magic Mike Likey's animated cartoons, comic books, CDs, and DVDs available from Amazon. He's also the author of more than 45 self-help alternative wellness books, as well as instructional magic books, all available from Amazon. Published in International Magicians trade journals, Magic Mike Likey is a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians and the Society of American Magicians.
And we're back with Anthony Darkstone. Anthony, we've had a great chat, albeit brief, within the constraints and restrictions of this medium. How can one contact you if they want to look at your background, if they want to look at maybe past, if they can? I think you have to be a magician or a member of the SAM to look at the Darkstone dossiers. How can people learn more about you?
Ah, well, you're right in one way. The Darkstone dossier is like its own showcase for the SAMB, the Society of American Musicians. It is now also open to anybody. It's on channel 14 of Abra, ABRA, dot TV. Just Google it, channel 14 will come up. If you can't remember the channel, it doesn't matter. Having done that, there are masses of wonderful other people there, like Greg Gleason, the late Steve Dacquary, Jeff McBride. Oh gosh, it's Doc Eason. Oh, he's probably someone's going to come up on the Darkstone dossier as we progress along. Contacting me. Well, basically, those who know me, or they find a way. I guess really I'm not too happy about throwing my email out and about there, and like you and other people, I get tons of Facebook requests, and it's very rare I say yes, because I don't know who these people are. I have no idea who they are. So I do look at them, and if they haven't got at least a half a dozen people that we share mutually, I don't bother, because I can't possibly keep up with everybody and everything with all the other things I'm doing as well. So I suppose, really, if someone absolutely wanted to, Anthony Darkstone at gmail.com.
Very good. And of course, we'll look forward to more editions of the Darkstone dossiers. I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about connecting more with what you have to offer, because you are magic. To me, well, it's true. I'm not just saying that. I think people that know me out there, they know I don't have to say the things I do, but nonetheless, unfortunately, I do say good things, hopefully. You're an inspiration, Anthony. You truly are. And I want to thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Sure, you're very, very welcome.
And I want to thank all of you for catching another edition of Magic Mike's Castle. We'll see you all very soon. Thank you.